You got to remember, this is one movie, and it's meant to be seen 1 through 6. So I think when you watch the actual movie in order, the story will become very clear that Anakin is the chosen one.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness!
And even when Anakin turns into Darth Vader, he is still the chosen one. The prophecy is that Anakin will bring balance to the Force and destroy the Sith. He becomes Darth Vader. Darth Vader does become the hero. Darth Vader does destroy the Sith, meaning himself and the Emperor. He does it because he is redeemed by a son. Prophecy is true. And by doing that, he redeems himself and goes from being Darth Vader back to being Anakin again.
You were right about me. Tell your sister you were right.
And so we had a convoluted mess that is known as the sequel trilogy in Star Wars, the sequel trilogy of the Skywalker saga. But for me, the Skywalker saga ended at Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, when Luke redeemed his father, and his father, Anakin Skywalker, destroyed Palpatine. Prophecy fulfilled. End of story. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Let's get real about the Rise of Skywalker. Let's have an honest discussion about the Rise of Skywalker. I'm not going to do a complete breakdown. I'm not going to do really a whole movie review. I want to give you my ultimate opinion of the movie. And I have a strong opinion. It's subjective. Let's keep it real, everybody. Did I just say keep it real? I did. Let's keep it real. We're talking about a movie, and our opinions are subjective. Okay? We're not talking about grand truth that's going to last for eternity. It's just a subjective opinion, just like I prefer chocolate ice cream to vanilla ice cream or whatever it is. Just subjective. Okay? So let's not fight about it. We can all have our opinions. But I do have some strong subjective opinions about the Rise of Skywalker. So let's get into it. Let's start with The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens was a fun movie. It's great. Set up a lot of cool things for us. It made us question who are Rey's parents. It made us go, wow, Kylo, man, you got some problems. And, you know, Vader was kind of in there as a helmet just to get people to say, hey, Vader, you know, it gets people in the seats. And Luke never really showed up till the very end. But I liked The Force Awakens because it set the table. It put all the pieces on the table to tell a compelling story, I thought. Got fans back in the seat. It looked like Star Wars, felt like Star Wars, sounded like Star Wars. Star Wars is back. And then comes The Last Jedi, and Rian Johnson, I think, is a good director. I don't have a problem with him and most of the movies that he does, but I just, handling a lore-based movie like Star Wars to subvert expectations, he comes in for the sake of subverting expectations and flips the table upside down. Says, I don't like this setup, and flips it upside down and tells his story. I don't hate The Last Jedi. It's, you know, I'm not going to be like some people and just absolutely hate it, but there are certain things about it, like Luke tosses lightsaber over his shoulder, that I don't like. And I think some of the message that The Last Jedi gives about overcoming fear and failure and those kind of things, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't think it advanced the story. It didn't tell a story. It just kind of left us all there in a little bit of a space chase, and we didn't really go anywhere. And it was right after The Force Awakens. The characters didn't have time to grow and to have character development. And so now, The Rise of Skywalker comes and has a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. It has the work of 2 movies to do. So, therefore, I'm not going to break everything down. I thought The Rise of Skywalker did a pretty good job with what it was given. Okay? I don't have a problem with Palpatine coming back. Do I wish he would have been introduced in The Last Jedi? Of course. Do I think things were rushed along? Hey, by the way, in case you weren't aware, spoiler review. I'm doing a spoiler review. Okay, I'm going to say things here. So if you don't want any spoilers, check it out later. But here we go. We learned that Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. Okay, fine. Okay, we learned that Rey is a Palpatine. She is Palpatine's granddaughter. I actually like that. I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem with the fact that it's in this movie and not in the last movie. This movie is more like the second movie of the trilogy. But then still trying to bring it to a conclusion. We can talk about how amazing I thought C-3PO was. I thought he was great. He was funny. He was back to his old self. He got a lot of screen time. We can talk about the use of the Force. The extreme use of the Force. Some people might have a problem with it and pulling ships out of the sky like Starkiller from The Force Unleashed. We can talk about Force healing. We can talk about essence transfer. We can talk about all that. I don't have a problem with any of it because that is today's Star Wars. That is this generation's Star Wars. It's just telling a story through the use of those avenues. We can talk about Leia and how awesome they were able to put her into this movie. I thought they did a fantastic job. People 10 years from now that don't know that Carrie Fisher wasn't around to film this aren't going to know the difference. We can talk about Finn, Rey, and Poe, how it was only Rey and Finn in The Force Awakens. None of them together in The Last Jedi, but they're all together in this one. They had a pretty cool dynamic. I liked it. I thought there was a little bit of a, hey, look, we're just like Han, Luke, and Leia to it. But whatever. I enjoyed it. We can talk about Luke showing up and raising his X-Wing out of the water, saying, hey, you don't mistreat your weapon. We can talk about all that stuff and debate all that stuff, and I'm sure we're going to and people will, okay? But I'm interested in the story. What story was told? I thought with what it was given, it started off at 85, 90% of this movie I love. I absolutely love 85 to 90% of this movie. I do not like the way the movie ended. I have no other way to put it. This is the end of the Skywalker saga. Palpatine, now listen, the way this movie ended cannot be blamed on The Last Jedi. The way this movie ended cannot be blamed on anything other than the writing of this movie and how this movie was presented to us. Some people may really like it, okay? And like I said, our opinions are subjective. That's fine. You can have a subjective opinion, and I'm not going to tear one fan down for liking this movie. I'm going to give you my opinion, what I think of it. This is the Skywalker saga. They kept telling us this is the end of the Skywalker saga. Well, it certainly was, because at the end of this movie, there's no blood Skywalkers left. They're gone. Okay? Ben is redeemed, had a really neat scene with Han Solo, who showed up out of nowhere. Harrison Ford got paid a lot, I'm sure. But it was a neat scene because they kind of reenacted their scene from The Force Awakens, but this time Ben turns, chucks his lightsaber out into the ocean. And I got to tell you, Adam Driver is a spectacular actor. You could see the change from Kylo Ren to Ben Solo just on the look on his face. Spectacular. Hey, we could also talk about how the Knights of Ren were useless. They were just there to be at the end for Kylo Ren to whoop up on after he was, hey, another Force thing, passing a lightsaber from one person in another area to this person over here. And there were scenes earlier in the movie where through the Force they're able to fight. One person is in one area, another person is in a different location, but they can still fight through the Force. Okay. I'm interested in the story. I'm interested in the story and how it ties into the grand arc that is the Skywalker saga. They said it's the end of the Skywalker saga, and that's where we ended up. Ben Solo dies at the end after he heals Rey, who had previously died in her confrontation with the Emperor. So we're left with no Skywalkers. We're left with Rey at the end saying she's a Skywalker when she's on Tatooine. But she's really a Palpatine. She's not Skywalker blood. She sees herself as an adopted Skywalker because of Luke and Leia, who show up there on the last scene. So let me just say this. This is my review. This is my opinion of the movie. I liked 85 to 90% of it. I didn't mind the adventure. I didn't mind the Indiana Jones style adventure. Most of the humor I thought landed pretty well. I like the new characters. Yes, they're going to sell toys, but I still liked them. Hux was kind of just shuffled aside. The First Order was just kind of shuffled aside. But that, like I said, that's just what they were left with after The Last Jedi. They did with what they could. Some people are going to view this movie as a slap in the face to The Last Jedi. I'm sure there's some things in there that could be taken that way. Like I said, we can debate that. I'm interested in the story. And here's where I go. I can't accept the way this movie ended. I can't. As a Star Wars fan, as a Skywalker saga fan, I cannot accept the way that this story ended. I have no problem with Palpatine being OP. He's been around forever. He took the Force essence out of Rey and Kylo when they were trying to confront him. He recognized their bond, says, I'm taking your life force. She was supposed to kill him with her saber and thus take his essence and become Empress Palpatine. She rejected that, and her and Kylo face off against him. Okay. He takes the life force out of him, and he heals himself because he'd been on machines. Now he's the Palpatine that we know, the glowing eyes, the hood, and the lightning. And the lightning's amazing, and he's taken down the whole rebel fleet with his lightning. But then, Rey and Kylo are on the ground because they had the life force drained out of them. Kylo gets up first, showing he's strong in the force. He gets up. And Palpatine says, nah, you're out of here. Force pushes him over the cliff, says, you'll fall like I fell, and this will be the end of the Skywalkers. You presume he's gone. And then you hear the Jedi calling to Rey. And you hear the voices of Anakin, and you hear Luke, and you hear, I think you hear Ahsoka. I know you hear Ahsoka, but I think Mace Windu was in there, and Obi-Wan. I have to listen to it again to hear all the voices. You hear the voices telling her to rise. And so she does. She rises. And then the big line, she's confronting Palpatine. He's trying to force lightning her. She's using one saber, Leia's saber, because she'd given Luke's saber to Ben through the Force. She's blocking it, and he refers to her as just a scavenger. She can't meet his power. I have all the Sith in me. And she replies in a very Iron Man way, I have all the Jedi in me. She gets the saber from using the Force, Luke's saber that Ben had, crosses sabers, and marches towards him, blocking his lightning. The lightning strikes him, and he just burns away, floats away. He's no more. That's the end of Emperor Palpatine. Rey's OP, and it's not explainable, and I'm sorry. This is where I'm going to end up. Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. Anakin Skywalker is the one to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. And that specific Sith is Palpatine, because he is tied to Palpatine. Go back to the Phantom Menace and watch, and all the way through, and the stuff that we've gotten since that shows that Palpatine was involved in the creation of Anakin Skywalker. They are linked. Anakin is to destroy the Sith. He did that in Return of the Jedi. The fact that Palpatine came back and Anakin wasn't around to help finish the job, he was just a voice among many Jedi, and it was a non-Skywalker. I would have been okay if Ben struck the final blow, because at least then it's still a Skywalker fulfilling the prophecy, but that's not even what happened. It's a Palpatine ending Palpatine. So in my view, this movie cheapens Anakin as the chosen one, and certainly cheapens his role in Return of the Jedi, because he didn't finish the job. If you bring Palpatine back, you had to bring Anakin back. I'm not saying he had to be the one to strike the final blow, but a physical appearance of Anakin, a Force Ghost Anakin, talking to Ben and Rey. And if they team up and beat Palpatine together through an amazing fight, and it's Ben that strikes the final blow, I have no problem with that. That is prophecy-fulfilled Skywalker blood. But they completely destroyed that. They broke Star Wars, in my opinion, by having Rey strike the final blow. That's not me talking against Rey. I like Rey. She's a great character. Little OP. I'd like to see that she has some faults. But it's not against Rey. It's me looking at the story going, how did this happen? And then what makes it worse is the final scene when she's on Tatooine and she's burying the two lightsabers. A cool scene. I don't have a problem with that. And the old lady with the camel-looking creature shows up. I don't know why. She came out of nowhere, in the middle of the desert. What are you walking around in the middle of the desert with? Where are you going? There's nothing around here. And she says, I haven't seen anybody. Nobody's been around here forever. Who are you? And she says, Rey. And she turns and she sees Luke and Leia as Force Ghosts. I like that. That's cool. What I didn't like is the fact that there was no Anakin in that scene and there was no Ben. To me, the ultimate perfect ending scene, and it would have soothed some of what happened with Palpatine earlier, is if you saw Anakin, Luke, Leia, and Ben, Force Ghosts, all there looking off into the twin sunsets with Rey when she pronounces herself to be a Skywalker. Now, we can debate whether she should do that or not. The Skywalkers are gone. There's no blood Skywalker left. Okay, we're left with Rey Palpatine. They blew it. In my opinion, the Rise of Skywalker blew it. And you cannot blame The Last Jedi for how this movie ended. They had the perfect ending. They could have brought Anakin. I'll sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say it again. He didn't have to be the big hero, but he needed to have a presence because he's the chosen one. And Ben needed to be the one to strike the final blow. Doesn't mean he couldn't have help from Rey. Of course he could. But he needed to be the one to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. Yet Anakin, in his talking to Rey, as you hear him, he says, I brought balance to the Force. You bring balance to the Force as I once did. It's like he's passing the chosen one role off to Rey. Okay. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Disney just didn't know how to handle the Skywalker saga. I think they know how to make good movies. I think that visually they're incredible. And I look forward to stuff that they're going to do in the future that's not Skywalker related. They create a whole new story. Got no problem with that. They can do whatever they want. But they mishandled the Skywalker saga. And they mishandled it because the way that this trilogy was put together was by one person writes something and you pass that on and you pass that on, and there was no plan. I'm sorry. They can say they knew where they were going to end, but they certainly didn't know how they were going to get there. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a story in place. And so we had a convoluted mess that is known as the sequel trilogy in Star Wars, the sequel trilogy of the Skywalker saga. So for me, this is where I end. Some people are going to say this is extreme. I may change my opinion as new stuff comes out in books and all that stuff. But for now, the Skywalker saga to me is episodes 1 through 6. Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. His son redeems him in Return of the Jedi. And Anakin is the one who destroyed the Sith and brought balance to the Force at the end of the Return of the Jedi. The sequel trilogy, related to the original trilogy, part of the continuing story, is the story of the Palpatines now to me. Even though you don't see Palpatine until episode 9, but you now can watch the entire trilogy knowing that Rey is a Palpatine, and so now we have the Palpatine trilogy. That's what I'm going to refer to this one as, and how that affects my view of the Chosen One, I don't know. But I'm going to look at the Skywalker saga ending at the end of episode 6, because we certainly didn't get Luke as we know him. We didn't, unfortunately with the passing of Carrie Fisher, we didn't get Leia. Han is, not a Skywalker, but he's gone. Anakin never shows up. They certainly like to use Darth Vader. They like to show that helmet and play his music, but he never showed up in this as a Force ghost. I don't get it. I don't get it. So I'm going to look at the sequel trilogy as the Palpatine trilogy. I'll watch it that way. I'll enjoy it that way. But for me, the Skywalker saga ended at episode 6, Return of the Jedi, when Luke redeemed his father, and his father, Anakin Skywalker, destroyed Palpatine. Prophecy fulfilled. End of story. Hey, let me know what you think. Like I said, this wasn't a complete breakdown of the movie. It's just my opinion of where the story went. I wanted to give you my spoiler review of where the story went, and that's what this is. Thank you to all our subscribers who have enjoyed our content here since we're getting close to a year. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're getting close, so please subscribe if you're new, and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Let me know what you think. That's what this is all about. Like I said, it's all subjective. You can have your opinion, and I'm not by any means going to demean you or trash you, and that's what I want for Star Wars fans. Look, we can all have our opinions, and we can be emphatic about them, but just remember they're subjective, and we're talking about a movie. That's all it is a movie. Okay? We can be passionate about it, but at the end of the day, it's still just a movie. So leave some comments. Let me know what you think of the movie. And let me know what you think of the ending. Let me know what you think of my review of Anakin Skywalker not being the chosen, or not fulfilling the prophecy at the end, and Rey being OP and all that other stuff. So I'm sure we have lots of opinions. Can't wait to hear them. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.